Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Thank you. Now enjoy the show.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of RAERAEs Review. And this is the finale of Reasonable Doubt, Season 1. I hope you have been paying attention because, baby, you will find out what's really going on. And pretty much they let us know who killed Kalisha in the first 5 minutes, child. So let me tell you what they done said on the show. Thanks again for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please share this with your peeps. Now, they do a little flashback of 6 months earlier. It's been, 6 months since the death of Kalisha. So they go back to that fateful night, child. And guess who shows up? And we all know Braden was there. She lets Braden in that night. And she explains to him, no means no, when she brought up the time that he took it. That can happen. It's like those. Well, anyway, I don't want to get too involved because I don't want anyone to get triggered. But there was a situation that happened before. They were at a hotel somewhere, and he was going for the gusto, and it wasn't forceful. Not to say that it was right. However, she was saying no, and then he just kept going, and that was a part of the info that was found on her laptop. Okay, so he apologized, and then she agrees to sign the NDA. So she signs it, gives it to him in the envelope, and then she lets him know that she wants to do it one more time. Real odd, ain't it? But she did, and they did, and he left happy, got in the car. Then Theo comes knocking on the door. She thought it was Braden. So Theo comes in, picks up the glass of wine, smells it, and says, oh, this smells like sex. So apparently he was watching Braden come in and out. So Theo pretty much came in there to threaten Kalisha and let her know to keep his name out of her mouth. And she refused and told him, I know what's going on. Get the hell out my house. So he finally did. And they looked back at Braden in the car, happy, text his wife. And we all know that pinged on the cell tower, according to the cell towerologist that they had on the stand. And so he looks at the NDA after texting his wife that he got the ice cream she wanted and he's on his way. But the NDA is not signed by Kalisha. She signed it FUCKYOU. Ooh, he got mad. Ooh, he was hotter than fish grease. So he bangs on her door, barges in, smacks her around, throws some furniture around, and knocks the glass on the floor. She's like, Braid, what are you doing? Like, stop touching, he's just going off. He is mad, letting her know that she is not going to ruin his life and she is not going to take his company. He picked up the stem part of the glass, and you know what he did? Chucked it in her internal jugular, child. And that's what happened. That's what we saw. That's what they filmed, child. And then she falls on the ground. So they move on to present day. And Jax is strategizing with her folks and points out the signage discrepancy of Kalisha between the NDA and some other things that she signed. And notice that that NDA was the one thing that was pretty much keeping Braden from going down to the jailhouse, because pretty much there's really no motive, because once she signs the NDA, all of the motive to get rid of her goes out the window. So someone else had to do it. That was pretty much what he was banking on. But Jax is smart. Remember that paperwork she saw from the CSI? That was a discrepancy. Yeah, that CSI changed the paperwork because the officer advised her to, considering the glass that was found with another fingerprint. See, that other fingerprint they didn't look into because they only wanted to be fixed on Brayden. And that was another point that Jax made. And so they found out the other fingerprint. Well, we found out the other fingerprint was Theo, because we see him pick up the glass and make that comment that it smelled like sex when he barged in her apartment that night. But because he has no priors of any kind and he's never been fingerprinted, they don't have his prints in the system. So that was another issue with the jury. So, like I said, back to present day, and Jax is strategizing and points out the signage discrepancy based off of how she writes her letters and things. And that's how she figured it was Brayden who did it. So then they go and pretty much make their closing remarks. And then Jax makes it to the fume. Pretty much, it was one of those things, where she wasn't really disappointed. However, she speaks with Shannelle and pretty much gets a good talking with Shannelle, apologizes to Shannelle, and Shannelle just lets her know, I got her back. Her mom spends the night at her house, and Jax tells her mom all the times Paul did what he did to her. She told her mom he was grooming her, all the different times that he touched her inappropriately. And then the next we see Jax going to Damon and breaking it off with him. And he pretty much leaves immediately, kisses her on her forehead. That's all he wanted to hear. He wasn't there for no conversation, no coffee, no tea, no muffin. So he left her sitting there as she told him it was over. She's going back to her husband. She wants to make it work. So back at the courthouse, Jack sees Brayden before the trial starts, pretty much before they finish out the trial. And so she tells Brayden, well, actually, he tells her that he's sorry for her loss, and he sent flowers and everything, and she got them. So she lets Brayden know she knows he did it. And then Rich shows up with a look on his face like, y'all ready to go back in? So Brayden knows that they know he did it. So it was just so funny looking at them. Then they do the closing remarks, right? And then Jax goes into the bathroom and gives it up all in a stall. And Fallon walks into the bathroom making a joke. Yeah, doesn't feel good, does it? Child, it really don't. When you know something's horrible and you done let some kill on the loose, I can imagine. So next we see Damon looking all sad and stuff, goes back to work, tells his brother that Jax, pretty much broke up with him. And CJ was like, good. Well, let's get back to business. Damon was like, ain't no more business. He's done. He was only doing it for her. CJ was like, I thought you was doing it for me. CJ gets mad and pretty much yells at him in front of everybody and fires him on the spot. Told him, you going to need me more than I need you. And that's how it's going to be. So good luck. And he was just going off and just trying to really just, just doing me and verbally. And Damon just yelling at him like, just stop. You don't have to be that way. I'm your brother, your blood. He was like, forget all that. I mean, it's really mad and sad. I mean, it's really sad, but it is what it is when you're dealing with crooks and criminals. Next, we see Brayden waits for Jackson in the parking lot. Asks how she know he did it. And pretty much they're just going back and forth with banter, and he pretty much threatens her and tells her, not to say nothing, or you're next. And that whole story about how he saved his mom from making a big mistake going after his brother's murderer. Come to find out, he's the one who retaliated against his brother's murder. So that's somebody else he then took off the set. Child, he's walking around. Uh-uh. So Jax leaves and then gets T-boned and taken out of her car by somebody by force. Child. Ugh. Then Lewis comes for the kids, finds Jax. Flake, the babysitter's rushing. She got finals and she just leaving. She's like, she ain't called. She ain't did nothing. I've been trying to reach her. Nothing. So Lewis pings her and finds her location. Has Mama Lou watch the kids. He goes to find where she at. He finds her car hit, almost total, door wide open, smoke coming from the hood, but he locates her phone. Everything's still in the car. I mean, now that's a shocker. Anywho, so then Lewis goes to Shannelle's house for help. Both her and JT is on the porch, trying to figure out what's going on. And Lewis asked Shannelle about the guy Jax was seeing. And so JT pretty much low-key threatened her to say something, and she told Lewis's name and where she can find him. So then Lewis goes to the auto body shop, right? And there he finds Damon. Child. Mm, mm, mm. Damon looking so sad. Child, oh man, he looking so sad. So he's asking where he can, have you seen her? Damon was like, nope. He's just being real elusive and just real, slow, telling him congratulations. And Lewis is like, so you ain't seen her? He was like, no, I don't date married women. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anywho, next we see Rich calls Brayden looking for Jax, and so Brayden's looking like, oh shoot, what's going on? And then we find out Damon is the one who has Jax tied up in the back, child, in the shop. Crazy self. He's being watched by Lewis all day because Lewis said he was on his way out. He ain't seen her. So Lewis had a funny suspicion that Damon kind of knew where she was. So he's been posted outside the shop waiting for Damon to come out. Or maybe he thought maybe he would, have Jax with her. So he's been watching and nothing has been transpiring. And now it's dark. But Damon said he was leaving out the door, right? So Lewis calls Dan to find out where Jax is and hopefully to get the popo to search the auto body shop. At the same time, Dan then got the call from Lewis earlier trying to find Jack. So he went to his buddy at the popo asking her to come with him to look for her. So they go to her car, investigate, and that's when he gets the call from Lewis. Can you bring some popo over here to the shop? So then we shoot to Damon talking to Jax. He got a pistol on her, and she's just scared out of her mind, trying to get loose. She's just trying to reason with him, and he's just sounding real crazy. And it looked like he about to take her out. And all of a sudden you hear the popo sirens. And they come in to save Jax. And then Lewis takes himself out in front of her. And then she's rescued. And then Lewis sees them pulling her out of the auto body shop. And he just runs to her. Her crew is there waiting on the other side of the road. And she is just so grateful. So grateful. Next, we see Jax at the house smoking a cigarette, just trying to decompress. And she finally tells Lewis about Paul and what he was doing to her as a teenager. Lewis understood, and that's that on that. Next morning, they wake up. Jax gets some text saying that the verdict is in, and she has to go in, of course, as Braden's attorney. So she gets there, and next thing you know, they announce Braden is innocent, child, innocent. So when they're walking out the courts, Sara lets him know that I'm not going, neither am I or the kids going with you to Bora Bora to celebrate. I'm divorcing you, taking the kids and taking half. And if he don't like it, oh, the fucks will. Okay, I don't blame him. And so he's back running clout as we see at towards the end. And then the office manager sends an envelope out. Come to find out the envelope gets to Fallon. Fallon opens it and it's a whole laundry list, a dossier of insufficient funds showing all of the paperwork Braden showed Jax about the company not being worth what it's worth. And then all of a sudden, we see the FBI come into Braden's clout office, letting him know that he needs to get an attorney. We are here to look at your books. Child, ain't that nothing? Then at the same time, Shannelle calls Jax while Jax is running up the hill exercising, just really trying to clear her mind. Next thing you know, we see JT laying on the ground, blood coming out of his head, deceased on the floor. And that's how season 2 starts, y'all. So I will see you back for season 2, episode 1. That was the finale of season 1, Reasonable Doubt on Hulu. I hope you had a great time with season 1. We're going to have an even better time with season 2. Thanks again for tuning in, y'all. And please don't forget to like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And please share. All right, bye.